The Gift of the Magi is a short story written by O. Henry. Well, he's not really named O. Henry, that was just a pen name for the man whose real name was William Sidney Porter. Although he might not be quite as crazily popular as he was 100 years ago, he is still considered one of the great American short story authors. O. Henry's stories are known for their playful and optimistic sense of humor, and especially for their twist endings. They are also often written in a uniquely oral style, as if the narrator were telling you the tale in person. They are perfect for reading aloud. The Gift of the Magi was originally published in 1906 in O. Henry's second collection of short stories called The Fourth Million. It is also one of those classic Christmas stories that people usually read during the holidays. It is possible to say that this story is a parable, since the key feature of a parable is that it uses a situation which feels very simple, in this case the love of a young couple, to make a more complex or general point which has inside a moral. In this short story, there are several characters that have an important role in the plot. Della is the loving, warm, selfless, and occasionally hysterical heroine of the story. She's a homemaker and she basically lives for one thing, Jim, who is her husband. Jim is a hard-working man that has all the economic responsibility in that relationship. He and Della are struggling just to pay the expenses of their small flat. Jim seems to be a little tired, serious, overworked, and perhaps a tad underweight. Madame Sofroni is the owner of a hair shop. Her manner is direct and to the point. She is the representation of a very different way of valuing things, purely for the money they bring. The story opens with $1.87. That is all Della had to buy a present for her husband, so she started to cry on the couch, situation that gave the narrator the opportunity to tell us a bit more about that very poor couple in which love was the most important thing. Once Della recovered herself, she went to Madame Sofroni's hair shop, where she sold her hair for $20. With that money, Della was able to find Jim the perfect present, an elegant and beautiful watch chain. Excited by her gift, Della returned home and tried to make her new short hair presentable. She was not convinced Jim would approve, but she did what she had to do to get him a good present. When Jim arrived, he was not able to understand that Della's hair was gone. Della couldn't understand what his reaction meant. After a while, Jim got close to Della and gave her a present, explaining that his reaction would make sense when she opens it. Della opened it and cried out in joy. Jim had given her the set of fancy combs she wanted for age, but she didn't have hair for them. After a moment, Della gave Jim his present, holding out the watch chain. Jim smiled, falling back on the couch. The reason is that he sold his watch to buy Della's combs. Finally, he recommended to put away their presents and have dinner. In The Gift of the Magi, O. Henry shows the role of women in the society of the early 20th century by presenting the women behaviors in their epoch, showing the role of both men and women in the story, and making emphasis in gender stereotypes. And for this analysis, I am going to take the feminist and the historical perspective. In the text, O. Henry makes an allusion to the epoch, the beginning of 20th century, in which women didn't have the same rights in comparison with men. As in the case of Della, the protagonist of the story, women were not able to work or perform tasks that men did. They were totally dependent on their husbands to do whatever they wanted. For example, in the story, it's possible to infer that the couple had to live only with $20 that Jim received as salary. The role of the woman in the story is very dependent on the man. It can be found on the paragraph where Della is very determined to find a solution to her problem just to please Jim. Issue that can be a conflict because Della's actions are limited to Jim's happiness. There is an intense desire of Della to make Jim happy. That supports the notion that men have a control over women and their emotions, even regarding the physical beauty, in the part in which Della is worried that Jim wouldn't like her new short hair look. In the story, the feminine gender is stereotyped as the fragile and over-emotional gender. It is identified in the first part of the text, in which the first thing that we notice is that Della is crying. Besides, she is presented as a very romantic person, since all the time she was thinking about her husband, but it is almost impossible to predict what Jim thought about her. In conclusion, the gift of the Magi gives us enough information about the role of women in a society. There is an influence of the epoch and some internalized stereotypes to identify women. Nevertheless, this is an issue that is changing over time. Currently, women have almost the same rights that men, but will women and men have equality of opportunities and rights someday?
Dedicate to all of you them who out there and know to say nice things to them girls. Treat her like diamonds and pearls. Dedicate to all the girls around the world. And this is Raymond and Shaggy with a combination with can't miss. Flip this one on your musical disc.
Girl, you're my angel. You're my
Created using Powtoon.